Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're going to be looking at AI in video games.
Yeah.
Specifically, a new AI model called Muse that is really making waves right now.
It is.
And we've got a fascinating source to dig into,
We do.
straight from Microsoft Research, and it was published in Nature.
The big one.
Yeah,
It's-
so, it's cutting-edge stuff.
It really is. And what we're going to unpack today is how this AI actually works.
Yeah.
What makes it different from anything that we've seen before.
Yeah.
And what it could mean for the future of how video games are made.
Okay, so let's start with the basics. What exactly is Muse?
Yeah.
I keep hearing it described as a world and human action model, which sounds pretty impressive.
It does sound pretty impressive.
But what does that actually mean for someone who, isn't an AI researcher?
Yeah, you're right. That term can sound a bit jargony.
Right.
So essentially, WHAM is a new type of AI model.
Okay.
And Muse is the very first of its kind.
Oh.
What sets it apart is its ability to learn not just from the visuals of a game, but also from how players interact with it.
Okay.
So think of it like imagine you're watching someone play a game.
Mm-hmm.
You see what's happening on the screen, but you also see how they're using the controller
Right.
to make decisions and control the action. Muse learns from both of those things.
So it's not just watching, it's understanding the strategy behind the action.
Exactly.
Oh, wow.
And that's a huge leap forward.
Yeah.
It means that Muse can generate new game content that actually makes sense within the rules of the game world.
Oh, okay.
It's not just spitting out random images or animations. It's creating content that's consistent with the game's logic and mechanics.
Right.
Something no other AI could do before.
Wow, that makes a lot of sense. So how did this whole project even come about?
Yeah.
Was there like a specific aha moment that sparked the idea?
Actually, there was a very specific moment that really kickstarted things.
Oh, really?
Back in December of 2022, our host was on maternity leave and stumbled across an article about ChatGPT, which had just kind of exploded onto the scene.
Yeah.
She had this light bulb moment,
Uh-huh.
realizing the potential for this kind of AI in the world of video games.
Oh, that's really cool. It's funny how these seemingly unrelated things can suddenly connect.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And from there, our host connected with the amazing team at Ninja Theory,
Okay.
the studio behind the game, Bleeding Edge.
Right.
They had been collaborating with Microsoft Research for years.
Mm-hmm.
And crucially, they had been ethically and responsibly collecting player data, specifically for research purposes.
So they had this treasure trove of data just waiting for the right AI to come along?
Exactly.
Wow, that's incredible.
And that's where Muse comes in. It was trained on an absolutely massive data set from Bleeding Edge.
Okay.
Over 7 years worth of gameplay data.
Wow.
That translates to over 1 billion images and controller actions.
Wow, that's mind-boggling. Can you even imagine the computing power needed to process all of that information?
It's truly remarkable. Training a model on this scale wasn't easy.
Yeah.
The researchers had to push the boundaries of what was possible,
Right.
leveraging the power of H100 GPUs,
Okay.
which are some of the most advanced processors available, especially for handling visual data.
Oh, wow.
Without them, training would have taken far too long, maybe even years.
Oh, my gosh.
But the excitement of seeing Muse actually begin to learn
Yeah.
to make connections within that massive data set
Right.
must have been incredible.
I bet it was. So we've talked about what Muse is and how it learns, but how does it actually get used by game creators?
Yeah.
Is it like having a magic button that instantly spits out a whole game?
That's where things get even more interesting.
Okay.
To make Muse truly useful, the researchers created a special interface called the WHAM demonstrator.
Okay. Break that down for me. What is the WHAM demonstrator and how does it work?
Think of it as a way for game creators to have a direct conversation with Muse.
Okay.
They can give Muse a prompt,
Uh-huh.
let's say a single promotional image from a game,
Okay.
and Muse can then generate different possibilities for what could happen next in that game world.
Oh, okay.
It's like having a brainstorming partner
Right.
who can instantly visualize gameplay scenarios.
So, for example, you could feed Muse a picture of a character standing on a rooftop,
Yeah.
and it could generate different ways that character might jump down,
Yeah.
different paths they might take, different actions they might perform.
Exactly.
Oh.
And the beauty of it is that game creators can tweak those generated sequences,
How cool.
adding their own ideas and exploring different creative avenues.
Right.
It become a very iterative process,
Yeah.
a back and forth between the human creator and the AI.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
It sounds like Muse could be a game changer for the creative process of game development.
It really could.
But before we go too far down that road, I want to take a step back
Okay.
and really understand what makes Muse so special.
Yeah.
We've thrown around terms like consistent and diverse
Hmm.
when talking about its capabilities, but what do those actually mean in practice?
You're right. Those terms are important to understand. So let's start with consistency.
Okay.
Remember how we talked about Muse learning the rules of the game world?
Yeah.
Well, consistency means that Muse can generate gameplay that actually follows those rules.
Oh,
For example, if a character is running in a certain direction based on the player's input,
right.
Muse won't suddenly make them walk through a wall or fly up into the air.
Right.
It understands the physics and limitations of that game world.
That makes sense. So it's not just being creative, it's being creative within a set of predefined boundaries.
Exactly.
Yeah, okay.
And that brings us to diversity. This is where Muse gets really exciting from a single starting point.
Yeah.
It can generate a huge variety of different gameplay options.
So it's not just giving you one linear path, it's giving you a whole range of possibilities.
Precisely, think about it this way.
Okay.
You give Muse that image of a character on a rooftop.
Mm-hmm.
It could generate different camera angles to show that scene. Different ways the character could interact with the environment.
Right.
Maybe they climb down a ladder. Maybe they use a grappling hook.
Right.
Maybe they even find a hidden jetpack.
Oh, that would be cool.
The possibilities are vast.
Wow, that's incredible. So we have consistency, meaning it understands the rules,
Yeah.
and diversity, meaning it can generate lots of different options within those rules.
Yes.
What else makes Muse unique? What's the third key capability that you mentioned?
The third capability is persistency.
Yeah, okay.
This means that Muse can remember and incorporate changes that the game creator makes.
Okay.
Let's say you love one of the gameplay sequences that Muse generates, but you want to add a new character into the scene.
Okay.
Muse can seamlessly integrate that new character into the existing sequence, taking into account their actions and interactions with the environment.
Oh, wow.
It's like Muse is learning and adapting in real time alongside the human creator.
So it's like having a truly collaborative, creative partner.
Exactly. And this brings us to another really exciting aspect of this project. Microsoft's decision to open source Muse. They're actually making Muse's weight sample data and the WHAM demonstrator available to the research community.
Okay, hold on. For those of us who aren't deep in the AI world, what does open sourcing actually mean in this context?
It means that they're essentially sharing the recipe and ingredients that Muse used to learn,
Oh, okay.
allowing other researchers to bake their own AI based on this groundbreaking model.
So it's about collaboration and pushing the field forward.
Absolutely, by open sourcing Muse.
Yeah.
Microsoft is encouraging other researchers to build upon their work,
Right.
to explore new applications of this technology,
Right.
and to push the boundaries of what's possible with AI in gaming.
That's really inspiring to see that level of openness and collaboration in the AI field.
It really is.
But I have to admit, the more we talk about Muse, the more questions I have.
My bad.
For example, we've touched on how this technology could change game development, but can we dive a bit deeper into the specifics? Like, what are some of the real-world ways that game creators could actually use Muse?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
Let's say you're a game designer
Okay.
and you have a brilliant idea for a new level
Right.
or a new gameplay mechanic.
Right.
In the past, you would have had to spend hours, maybe even days or weeks, building out that idea
Right.
in a traditional game development environment
Yeah.
just to see if it actually worked.
Right. It's a lot of trial and error,
Totally.
a lot of back and forth before you get something you're happy with.
Exactly. But with Muse, you could potentially skip a lot of that initial legwork.
Oh, okay.
You could use the WHAM demonstrator to test out your idea in a virtual environment.
Okay.
What if you wanted to design a chase scene
Yeah.
through a crowded marketplace?
Uh-huh.
You could feed Muse some basic parameters like the layout of the marketplace,
Right.
the types of obstacles, the characters involved,
Yeah.
and Muse could generate a bunch of different ways that chase could play out.
It's like having a virtual sandbox where you can experiment and iterate without having to build everything from scratch.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And this ties back to those key capabilities that we talked about earlier.
Right.
The consistency of Muse ensures that the chase scene will follow the rules of your game world.
Okay.
Characters won't magically teleport or phase through walls.
Right.
The diversity of Muse means you'll get a variety of different options to choose from.
Yeah.
Maybe in one version, the character escapes on a stolen motorcycle.
Okay.
In another version, they use parkour skills to outmaneuver their pursuers.
Oh, that's cool.
And the persistency of Muse means you can tweak those generated sequences,
Right.
maybe adding a new obstacle
Right.
or changing the character's abilities.
Okay.
And Muse will seamlessly adapt.
So it's not just about speed, it's about expanding the creative possibilities, right?
Absolutely.
Hmm.
Let's say you're struggling with a particular design challenge.
Okay,
Maybe you just can't quite crack the perfect puzzle for your game.
right.
You could describe the puzzle to Muse.
Yeah,
The types of elements involve the desired difficulty level,
right.
and it could generate different puzzle variations for you to explore. Wow! It's like having an AI brainstorming partner who can come up with dozens of ideas in seconds, all while ensuring those ideas are actually feasible within the game world.
It's almost like Muse takes care of the technical heavy lifting so that
Yeah.
you, the human creator, can focus on the artistic vision.
That's a great way to put it. And this is especially important when you think about those time-consuming aspects of game development,
Yeah,
things like level design or creating animations. These tasks can often feel repetitive and tedious for human designers.
right.
But Muse could potentially automate some of those processes,
Yeah.
freeing up human creators to focus on the bigger picture, the
Yeah.
story, the characters, the overall player experience.
Now, that's something I can definitely get behind. But speaking of the player experience, let's not forget that Muse was trained on actual gameplay data.
That's right.
It's not just generating content in a vacuum.
Yeah.
It's generating content based on how real people play games.
You're absolutely right, and this is where the heat maps come in. Do you remember how we talked about the researchers visualizing the training data?
Yeah.
Well, they created these fascinating heat maps
Yeah.
that show which areas of the bleeding edge game world were hot, meaning they are popular with players,
Mm-hmm.
and which areas were cold, meaning players tended to avoid them.
I remember that it's like looking at a map of the game where the most exciting parts are glowing bright red
Yes.
and the less interesting parts are fading into blue.
Exactly. And by analyzing these heat maps, Muse is able to learn which elements of a game tend to be most engaging for players.
Oh, okay.
It can use that knowledge to generate new content
Right.
that is more likely to resonate with players to create experiences that are inherently more fun and exciting.
It's almost like Muse is learning the game the same way a human player would,
Yeah.
by exploring the world, interacting with different elements,
Yeah.
and figuring out what works and what doesn't, and then it's using that knowledge to create something new.
That's a great analogy, and it really highlights one of the most exciting aspects of this research.
What's that?
It's not just about creating an AI that can generate content.
Yeah.
It's about creating an AI that can understand and learn from human behavior in a meaningful way.
So we've talked about the creative possibilities, the potential for streamlining game development, and even the impact on player engagement. But I want to go back to something you mentioned earlier, this
Right.
idea of AI as a collaborative partner. Why is that so crucial?
Right.
What's the balance between human creativity and AI innovation in all of this?
That's a really important question. There's sometimes this fear that AI will replace human creativity,
Right.
especially in fields like art and design.
Yeah.
But with Muse, it's clear that the goal is not to replace humans, but to empower them.
So it's not about AI taking over. It's about AI giving us new tools and capabilities to push our own creativity further.
Exactly. Imagine Muse as a super-powered brainstorming partner.
Okay.
It can help you overcome creative blocks. It can generate a wider range of ideas than you might come up with on your own. And it can even help you visualize those ideas in a virtual environment.
Right.
But ultimately, the creative decisions, the artistic vision, the heart and soul of the game that still comes from the human creator.
It's like Muse is the paintbrush, but the human is the artist.
I love that analogy. It
Mhm.
really captures the essence of this collaboration. And it's not just about individual creators either. Think about the potential impact on game development teams as a whole.
Yeah.
Muse could help teams iterate faster, communicate ideas more effectively, and ultimately create better games that resonate more deeply with players.
That's an exciting thought. But with all this talk about the future of game development, I can't help but wonder about the future of gaming itself.
Yeah.
How might Muse or other AI like it change the way we play games? What kind of experiences might be possible that we haven't even imagined yet?
That's a fantastic question. And honestly, I think we're just scratching the surface of what's possible.
Yeah.
But there are a few areas where I think AI could have a particularly profound impact. One of those areas is storytelling.
Oh, interesting. Tell me more about that. How could AI change the way stories are told in games?
Imagine playing a game where the story is not pre-scripted,
Okay.
but is dynamically generated based on your choices and actions.
Oh, wow.
What if the characters you meet, the quests you undertake, even the ending of the game.
Right.
What if all of that was shaped by the way you play?
Yeah.
That's the power of AI-driven storytelling.
Yeah.
It could lead to truly unique and personalized narratives,
Wow.
making every playthrough feel different and meaningful.
Wow. That's a mind-blowing concept. It's like the game is a living, breathing story that's constantly evolving alongside you.
Exactly. And think about the potential for creating more immersive and believable game worlds.
Yeah.
Right now, most non-player characters, NPCs, in games are pretty limited in terms of their behavior and interactions.
Right.
They follow pre-programmed scripts. They react to the player in predictable ways.
Yeah.
But what if AI could be used to create NPCs that feel truly alive?
Okay.
Imagine interacting with characters that can learn from your behavior, that can adapt their responses and actions based on your choices, that have their own unique personalities and motivations that could transform the way we experience game worlds,
Yeah.
making them feel less like virtual playgrounds and more like dynamic, unpredictable societies.
It's like those NPCs would become real characters in their own right, not just puppets following a script.
Exactly. And let's not forget about the potential for AI to make gaming more accessible and inclusive.
Oh, that's a good point.
Imagine AI-powered tools that could adapt the gameplay experience to the needs of individual players.
Okay.
For someone who has difficulty with fast-paced action,
Yeah.
AI could adjust the game's difficulty, slowing down enemies or providing helpful hints.
Right.
For someone who struggles with a particular type of puzzle, AI could offer subtle guidance or even generate alternative puzzle solutions.
So AI could be used to personalize the gaming experience, making it more enjoyable and engaging for a wider range of players.
Absolutely, and that's just the tip of the iceberg. AI could also be used to generate subtitles and audio descriptions for players with visual or hearing impairments,
Right.
or to create adaptive controller layouts for players with motor challenges. The possibilities are truly vast.
Wow, this is all so exciting. But with all this talk about the future, it's important to remember that we're still in the early stages of this technology.
Yeah.
What are some of the challenges that researchers are still working to overcome with AI in gaming?
That's a great point. One of the biggest challenges is ensuring that AI-generated content is truly creative and original,
Right.
that it doesn't just feel like a rehash of existing ideas.
Right.
We need to find ways to push AI beyond simply mimicking human creativity and into the realm of genuine innovation.
So how do we do that? How do we get AI to think outside the box to come up with truly novel ideas?
That's the million-dollar question.
Yeah.
Part of it comes down to how we train AI. We need to move beyond simply feeding AI massive data sets and hoping for the best.
Yeah.
We need to find ways to encourage AI to explore new possibilities, to experiment, to take risks.
So it's not just about quantity of data, it's about the quality and diversity of that data.
Exactly. And it's also about finding ways to integrate human feedback into the creative process.
Okay.
We need to create systems where AI and human creators can work together, where AI can learn from human guidance, and where humans can be inspired by AI's suggestions.
It sounds like the key is finding that sweet spot, that balance between human intuition and AI innovation.
Absolutely. And that's where things get really interesting, because when we bring together the best of human creativity and the power of AI,
Yeah.
we open up a world of possibilities that are truly limitless.
And speaking of limitless possibilities, I can't help but think about the broader implications of this research.
Oh,
We
yeah.
focused on video games, but this idea of AI as a creative partner
Yeah.
could extend to so many other fields, music, art, literature, even scientific discovery.
Right.
What if AI could help us push the boundaries of human imagination in all of these areas?
You're right. This is not just about games. It's about the future of creativity itself.
Wow.
I think that's what makes this research so significant. It's not just about advancing the field of gaming. It's about exploring the fundamental nature of creativity itself
Right.
and reimagining the role that AI can play in shaping the future of human expression.
That's a pretty profound thought. But before we get too carried away with the philosophical implications, I want to bring it back to Muse for a moment.
Okay.
We've talked about its capabilities, its potential impact, and the challenges that lie ahead.
Right.
But for the game developers out there who are listening to this, what's the key takeaway? What should they be thinking about as they consider the role of AI in their own work?
That's a great question. I think the key takeaway is this. Don't be afraid to experiment. Don't be afraid to explore the possibilities of AI as a creative tool.
Right.
Muse is just one example of the amazing things that are happening at the intersection of AI and game development.
Yeah.
There are countless other tools and techniques out there that are waiting to be discovered and harnessed.
So it's about embracing the unknown, about being open to new possibilities and new ways of working.
Exactly. And it's about recognizing that AI is not a threat to human creativity, but rather an opportunity to amplify it.
Right.
When we embrace the power of AI as a partner, we unlock a world of creative potential that we never even knew existed.
I love that message. Don't be afraid to experiment. It's a reminder that we're living in a really exciting time for creativity,
It is.
a time where technology is opening up new frontiers and challenging us to rethink what's possible.
It really is. And as we wrap up our deep dive into Muse,
Yeah,
I think it's worth reflecting on just how far we've come even a few years ago.
right?
The idea of an AI that could generate video game content that's diverse and persistent
Yeah.
would have seemed like science fiction.
Right. It would have been easy to dismiss it as something out of a movie.
Yeah.
But here we are talking about a real working AI model that's already making waves in the gaming industry.
And what's so fascinating is that Muse is just the beginning. It's a glimpse into a future where AI is not just a tool for automation, but a true creative partner,
Right.
a collaborator that can help us push the boundaries of human imagination in ways we never thought possible.
So as we look ahead, what are some of the key trends or developments that you're most excited about in the world of AI and gaming? What should we be keeping our eyes on?
Well, one area that I'm particularly interested in is the concept of emergent gameplay.
Hmm.
We touched on this earlier when we talked about AI-driven storytelling, but it goes beyond just narrative.
Yeah.
Imagine a game where the world itself is constantly evolving and adapting,
Oh, wow.
based on the actions of the players, where the rules of the game are not fixed,
Right.
but are constantly being rewritten by the AI.
So it's like the game is a living ecosystem, a dynamic system that's always in flux.
Exactly, and that could lead to some truly mind-bending gameplay experiences.
Wow.
Imagine a game where the environment reacts to your playstyle,
Okay.
where the enemies learn from your tactics and adapt their strategies accordingly.
Oh.
Or a game where the very physics of the world can be altered by the players, leading to completely unexpected and unpredictable outcomes.
It's like the game becomes a conversation, a back and forth between the player and the AI,
Yeah,
each one pushing the other to adapt and evolve.
that's a great way to put it. And this idea of AI as a reactive and adaptive force in games,
Right.
I think it has the potential to revolutionize the way we think about game design and player agency.
Absolutely. It moves us away from the idea of a game as a static, predefined experience and into something that feels much more organic and unpredictable, much more like real life in a way.
And speaking of real life, another trend that I'm really excited about is the use of AI to create more realistic and believable virtual worlds.
Hmm.
We talked about the potential for AI-powered NPCs that can learn and adapt.
Yeah.
But I think it's beyond just characters.
Yeah.
Imagine AI being used to simulate entire ecosystems.
Oh, wow.
The weather patterns, the plant and animal life, the way different elements of the environment interact with each other.
It's like creating a virtual world that feels as rich and complex as the real world. A world that truly feels alive.
Exactly, and that could lead to some incredible possibilities.
Yeah.
For exploration, discovery, and even scientific research, imagine using AI to create virtual simulations of different climates or ecosystems,
Right.
allowing scientists to study the effects of climate change or test out different conservation strategies.
It's like the line between gaming and reality starts to blur, where virtual worlds become not just places to escape to, but places to learn from and experiment in.
And this brings us back to that key takeaway we talked about earlier.
Okay.
Don't be afraid to experiment. The world of AI and gaming is evolving so rapidly that it's impossible to predict exactly what the future holds.
Right.
But that's also what makes it so exciting. The possibilities are literally endless.
So, for our listeners out there, game developers, gamers, anyone who's curious about the future of technology and creativity,
Yeah.
what's the one thing you want them to take away from this deep dive into Muse?
I think the most important thing is to stay curious, to keep asking questions,
Yeah.
to keep exploring the possibilities. Don't be afraid to experiment. Don't be afraid to push the boundaries.
Right.
And don't be afraid to imagine a future where AI is not just a tool,
Yeah.
but a partner in the creative process.
That's a fantastic message to end on.
It is.
So to all of our listeners out there, keep playing, keep dreaming, and keep pushing the limits of what's possible. We can't wait to see what the future of gaming holds.
And we'll be here to explore it with you every step of the way. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.